Welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors. Dr. Allen chats with successful investors exploring their journey from setback to triumph. Through this window, we glimpse the truths that inspire our guests to invest abundantly and flourish in all areas of life. And now your host, Dr. Allen.
Welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, where we delve deep into the lives of our successful guests to learn the secrets of thriving to flourish abundantly in all areas of life. I'm your host, Dr. Allen. Today's guest, after trying his hand in a few different ventures, he found his passion in real estate. He has a proven track record of success throughout his company's 18 years with thousands of individual units bought, repositioned, and sold. He has overseen all aspects of the business, including operations, acquisitions, project leadership, equity fund management, property specification, syndication, legal, and finance. Welcome back to the show, Bruce Wuollet.
Bruce, it really is a pleasure to be able to have an extended conversation with you. And we were talking just a bit before starting the program about how your property managers came back to you just in the last few weeks and said that you are different than any of the other property owners that they have to deal with, and that you focus upon community, and the other owners just focus upon that bottom line. So talk to us a little bit, Bruce, about how it is that you came to be different and have a focus upon building community as opposed to just looking at tomorrow or today's bottom line.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again. I'll gladly dive into that. And the bottom line obviously is important. Our financials are very important, and the more profit that we can have, the better the return to the investors and to ourselves. So it's very important for us to have profit, and that's not forgotten in the process. But when I met with this property management company the other day for lunch, she had told me that when I discussed with her some of the challenges that we had seen with repositioning this property, and was pretty much in the weeds, if you will, about their focus and how I wanted them to really transition into providing safe, functional, durable, clean environment for the residents. And as we got to talking and diving into that conversation, she said, just so you know, you're unique. You are the only owner that we have that is like that. And I said, what do you mean? What's the difference? She said, so many other ones are focused on it's money, money, money. And she said, you have a deep care for the community, for the safety as best as you can provide, and for providing a place for the residents. And it made me pause as I was talking to you before, Alan, that, where did this come from? And my father, would always say, focus on doing the right thing and the money will follow. But if you focus on the money, you may sometimes make some tough decisions or difficult decisions. And that it's always good to focus on doing the right thing. And one of our core values is do the right thing right. And so it's very, very important for me to focus on the production, focus on the community. When I say focus on the community, it's not from a charity standpoint, but just providing a place that people can call home. This is a very important part of their lives, and we're a very important part of their lives. And so the better we can make it, the lower the turnover, the actual better business you will have in the long run.
So it's not just necessarily philanthropy that you're working from, but it's also it's that aspect of building something that like you said, it's a durable place for them to live, but by building a safe, durable, respectable community, you're also developing a durable business that can withstand the ups and downs of economic turns one way or the other. I wonder if that's not an aspect of a good life lived, is that aspect of caring, not just for the bottom line, but caring for the overall longevity. Eric Fromm, in his I can't remember the title of his book, but anyway, a quote from that is, "Greed is a bottomless pit which exhausts the person in an endless effort to satisfy the need without ever reaching satisfaction." It sounds to me like you are taking that particularly to heart there. So talk to us a little bit about that aspect of providing shelter, providing safety, providing durability for residents without that aspect of being overcome by greed.
Wow. Yeah, greed kills. And I was the individual that mentored me. His father told me, and he was from Finland, had a pretty thick accent, and his name is Rex. And he told me one time, he says, "Bruce, real estate can be really lucrative. That when need turns to greed, slow down."
Oh.
And it was a very interesting thing that's been in my head for a very long time. And I'm not a greedy person, and that's very true. I have a deep feeling that you get what you're blessed with, and do the best you can, and treat people right, and that's a good formula to follow. Now, I do have goals, aspirations, and they are big. I have big dreams. I write them down, and oftentimes you miss them, and I have the BHAGs, the big, hairy, audacious goals. I follow that mindset, but that's internally of what I want. But that's not portrayed in a way that it becomes more important than the mission itself, which is owning legacy apartments. Our vision statement is creating legacy high-performing assets. And to have a legacy asset, it really needs to last the test of time. Now, we haven't owned them long enough to last the test of time, but we're in changing markets, which are exciting. There's opportunity, and I'm curious to see how we can push above the rest in maintaining our properties, like I say, just this much better than everybody else. And my fingers are held an inch apart. So that's really what you need to do is you don't want to overspend the market. Like, you're not going to put granite countertops and high-end appliances, Viking appliances into a workforce community. The numbers just can't support that.
Right.
But it doesn't pay to leave places that have leaky faucets, have mold, have bed bug issues, have all these other challenges that really make for a poor life. Now, we can't control how the residents live internally completely, but we can do annual inspections. We can do periodic check-ins, make sure the health and safety is there. And if we have issues, there's ways to deal with that without going immediately to eviction. There's a process you can follow legally, give them some warnings, give them some opportunity, help them out the best you can, because anybody that is in multifamily real estate rentals knows that vacant units pay no bills. And turnover can be very, very costly. So retention of your resident, to me, is very, very important. Well, and then, as far as the greed goes, the other thing is that when we rent and we repair and we manage our properties, it's always at market. So we're not pushing rents to the highest in the market, but we're not the lowest. We're not the slumlords either. So it's much more close. It's market rents. What does the market bear? And we'll push it the best we can, so that we can get the best return, but also not push it so far that we can't fill it with good quality residents. We don't want to outprice the market. If a 2-bedroom is renting for $850 in the area and we come in at $1,025, it's going to stay empty. But we're going to come in, if it's $850, we might push $875, even if we see some that are higher. So we're typically not the highest rent, but we're never the lowest.
Well, I notice behind you on your wall there is your mission statement. I can't read it from here, but tell us about your mission statement.
Yeah, this is a personal mission. There's a little story behind this. I had a few years ago, one of my little brothers was in my office, and he says, how do you get your people to show up every day, do their job, and you don't have to manage them? They all know what to do every day. And I said, well, we have outcomes that, desired outcomes that everybody knows, and we have things that have to get done every day, and they know what their job is. He says, it's just fun to come in here and watch. Everybody does their thing, and there's nobody, quote unquote, managing them. It's about creating systems. And he said, no, it's something more than that. And so I sat down and I wrote down some things, which is my mission, my ambition, my dream, and my promise. And the mission is to foster a work environment where the employees always feel the owner has a listening ear. So that I'm very type A personality, I'm very driven, but I also listen. If somebody speaks, I want to make sure that I take note of that I'm listening to them, and they feel they're part of a team, not part of a machine that doesn't have personality. The employees all thrive here, and they really enjoy working for me, which to me is very fulfilling. And that's something I learned again from my father. He had over 100 employees that reported, to him through various managers, but he had about 135 employees at numerous bakeries in the Twin Cities. And the employees all loved him, and he loved paying them every payday. Anybody that was at work that day, he would hand out their checks personally. This is when we had paper checks, and hand them out personally to everybody, and then put the rest of them up in the front. And then people came in, they knew where to get their checks if they weren't at work at that time when he showed up. But he always made sure that anybody who was working, when he brought the checks, he handed personally to them. And to me, that, okay, he's listening. People like to talk to him, and it was it was fun to work with him because the employees really did love him.
So you have your mission, your dream, and what are
my ambition is to feed the employees so they can chase their dreams and succeed. And my dream is that all employees love their job and are inspired with the opportunity. And my promise is never forget that the company is its employees, and I serve them.
That is quite something. I can see why people want to come to work and work for you. Not many employers today seem to have that kind of aspiration. It seems the mood of the business community in this country is to get as much out of their employees as they can by giving as little as they can. Talk to us about that.
That's just brought back a fun story from one of my friends who, jokingly, he worked for a company, and I asked him how he liked his job, and he says, "Well, it's all right." He says, "I work just hard enough so I don't get fired, and he pays me just enough so I don't quit."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, that's kind of," but he laughed. He said, "That's how business world is. That's how they do it." But it goes back to when I say that I serve them. The example is, in our Monday meeting yesterday morning, one of the employees said, "Hey, we really need more detail in our CRM regarding the investors and the equity, and it needs to be in one place so that we kind of know where the direction of this is going." And I sat on that, and then this morning I was watching a webinar, and it all came together how we need to do that. And I went back to him and I said, "Hey, listen, here's what we're going to do, and here's how we're going to make that happen, and here's what you need in your in the CRM, and here's how we'll build it for you." And then he said, "That's perfect. That's exactly what I need." So then I went to our marketing guy that manages our CRMs and said, "This is what we need." He said, "Oh, we have everything there. Everything you need is already set up. All we have to do is input the data and create the what we call avatars, create the profile of the investors." And he says that all we need people is input the data. So now the wheels are in motion after something was made in a little bit of frustration at the meeting yesterday that, I just don't have access to some of this information. I need access for me to make a good decision in my position. Mm-hmm. And I made sure that within 24 hours, we have a process going. And I didn't do it for any accolades or anything. I just did it because, hey, that's a great idea. And it's actually helpful for me as an owner. If I'm remote, I can still keep in touch without having to contact each individual person to kind of see where the capital and the investor relations side of the business is. And I said, this is perfect for everybody. And they'll help our asset manager to know, hey, here's what we got coming in. Here's the projections. Here's where it's a very important tool, but it was missing. So I had to listen to that and say, okay, I hear something missing. And I slept on it, went mountain biking this morning, came in the office, voila, there's a solution. So that's where when I serve, it's the first part, it kind of comes full circle. And the first one, that the owner has a listening ear, is also that listening means not hearing it, but doing something about it. And that's serving them in that way, providing them the tools they need, providing them the information they need for them to make informed decisions, because the more informed they are, the better decisions they make, the better we all do as a company. It's really, to me, taking care of crops on a field. The better you cultivate your crops, the stronger crops you get every year. But you don't do it just this year. You look long term, because if there's you can ruin if you plant the same crops in the same way year after year. Eventually, the soil doesn't get as productive as it would be. So they rotate crops and things like that. So it's a long term vision of their field. Same thing with a business. You need to always be changing. Things come at you. If you do the same thing all the time and the market shifts, you miss out on some opportunities. You need to shift.
Right. Well, I like how you slept on it, and then you were mountain biking, and it was during that mountain biking experience that the insight came to you. I'm going to quote another saying here. This is from Albert Einstein. He said, "He who can no longer pause to wonder and stand wrapped in awe is as good as dead. His eyes are closed." So that coming from a fairly brilliant man, stating that it's those quiet times, those times when we can pause and stand in awe, that our greatest wonders come to us. So talk to us a little bit about that aspect of your life. Being a type A person, I wonder if you don't have to be kind of intentional about finding those pauses in your life.
It's interesting, because that just was kind of, I could say, revealed in my mind recently. I started mountain biking, started biking kind of on a regular basis at 40 years old. I'm 51, so 11 years ago, because I had high cholesterol, and I went to do some research, and they said that, hey, to lower your cholesterol, it comes to diet and exercise. So I brought it from a 287 down to just over 200 in 6 months, and it's dropped below that after. So I was able to bring it down only through diet and exercise, cut out sugar, I don't eat any processed sugars, and eat honey or maple syrup, pure maple syrup, and natural sweeteners if I want it, but no processed sugars. And that's a whole nother topic. But in that journey of biking, I became more and more in tune to biking and mountain biking. Well, this last year, I got pretty serious about it. And I realized that when I went out, I have no headsets in, no distraction. I'm just out there with nature, and I do pause. I get to the top of a hill. Sometimes I'll be there for 10 or 15 minutes, just kind of looking out over the landscape, because Phoenix has if you get up in the north end of Phoenix, there's some beautiful landscape. And I realized that, if I do that, my day goes much better. So in the last, since COVID started in March, it's clearly before that, because I looked at my numbers. I'm out biking on average 6 days a week. So my day starts at 4:15, get up, have a cup of coffee, eat a little bit of energy bar, all natural, that I start with prior to breakfast. And then I go do the mountain biking or road biking. I do both. And the mountain biking is usually 12 to 18 miles. And the road bike is usually 25 to 40, depending on the day and the route I go. But when I get out on that, I realize that there's the different things. When I'm road biking, it's a lot more cautious about what's around me, because there's cars on the road, and cars and bikes don't mix until I get out of the traffic area. Then all of a sudden I start to relax and really enjoy the ride. But that was a little more intense, frankly, than the mountain bike. Even though mountain biking is a lot harder on your exertion, to me it's a release. But on either one of those bikes, when I'm out, my mind is shut off to almost anything. And I do put intentional thoughts prior to the bike ride of, this is what I'd like to solve today. When I first did it, I thought, that's kind of weird. It's not going to work. And I do it, and I was like, what? That was dumb. Because all this self-talk and self-doubt. Now I have intention that any solution I want to work on, I do right before I go to bed and right before I go mountain biking. This is what I want to work on. And sometimes it's the same thing, sometimes it's different things. It's amazing that the abundance mentality comes when you open your mind up and not be closed. But the biggest, my worst critic is also the noisiest voice in my head, is the one that says, Bruce, you can't do it, or no, it's not worth it. The naysayer inside of us. So that journey and watching those results, to me, has been so impactful that I can't wait to go mountain biking the next day. And I'm sure my wife thinks it's beyond a passion into an obsession, but that's why I try to get it done in the morning. In the summertime, it's easier because it's it's light out so early here in Phoenix. It's sunrise a little after 5, so we can be out pretty early. But that's kind of the journey I took to get to this point, but that's the intention I have. So I'll usually have one rest day a week. This week it's gonna be Thursday. Last week it was Saturday. It just depends on how it fits into my personal social schedule. If we're out late on a weeknight or on a weekend night, then the morning's not gonna be early. I need to get enough sleep, of course. So that's my intention, is 6 days a week and 1 day of rest from mountain biking. And but the intention before is what's really started more recently, and it's been that this is what I want to work on when I'm out there. And sometimes I don't think of anything. I don't think I am, but when I get done, I'm like, hey, there's some cool ideas I just thought of while I was out there, even though I was focusing on biking. It's one of the miracles of thought, if you will, or abundance.
So on your 1 day off a week, do you begin that day with an intention, or is that 1 day off just a day that is totally and completely off, both psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually?
No, on that day, that morning I read. So I have a book that I read. Just pick whatever book it might be. Previously it was Abundance Unleashed, and before that it was Find Your Why. I'm just wrapping up a leadership book by Carrie Lorenz. She's a F-14 Tomcat, or she was a F-14 Tomcat fighter pilot, and as a woman was the first one that flew that and landed on, and then she also landed on aircraft carriers. So it's fascinating how she's applied that now, same age as I am, but she's applied that to business life and life in general. So that's a book I'm reading right now, but I read on those mornings.
Okay.
And I don't work on Sundays. That's a family, and that would be the spiritual day. Every day, I guess, you live in this. The hope is to live in your right spirit and follow your morals and directions every day. But that's the day we set aside, and Sunday's a family day, church day, things of that nature. And then Saturday may or may not work depending on what I have going on socially. My family's important. I got to make sure that I grow up with them and be present. And that's not always easy for my personality to be present, because there's so many other things I want to do that are business related, as opposed to, going for a hike with a 11-year-old is not always easy, because they're not motivated to go or something. Just, it's not the same as doing your adult exercise, where you're out in tents and just not by myself. But being present is very important on the weekends and evenings for me.
Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our time here together again. And it has been a real pleasure being with you. Before we close out the program here, once again, tell our listeners how it is that they can get in touch with you. Okay,
you can either call or text me at 520-808-9111, or email bruce@bakerson.com, BAKERSON.com. Yes, I'm a son of a baker.
Any last words you'd like to share with our viewers and listeners?
I would like to share that I find it really exciting when I meet other like-minded individuals to take this journey. So if people are really focused on their residents and focused on their employees, and realizing that if you take care of them, they'll take care of your business, which takes care of you, it's a much more fulfilling journey than just focusing on yourself. I could have done that and stayed in sales, made a good living doing that, and focused on myself. But there's something about focusing on other people and watching them grow, and then able to earn off of that as well. And so take care of your employees and your residents. They'll take care of your properties and your business, which will take care of you.
Wonderful final words there. Thank you, Bruce, for being on the program.
Thank you so much, Alan. I appreciate being on your program again.
Thank you for tuning in to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, brought to you by Steve Talker Capital. Steed Talker Capital works with both new and established investors nationwide, creating opportunities to flourish in all areas of life. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steed Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steed Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures great and small flourish abundantly. For resources to enhance your well-being through multifamily real estate investment, connect with us online at capital.steedtalker.com.